This used to be racism. This used to be racism. And this used to be racism. Hi, my name is Dave, and as you might guess, I'm going to talk just a little bit about racism, and I guess more precisely, I'm going to talk about the word racism and how we have lost all meaning for what that word is. The last week especially, there's been several incidents in the news that has just brought a deluge of accusations of racism. And this is not to support Donald Trump. This is just to prove a point, to demonstrate how that word, how our language in general, political language, seems to be being controlled by the socialist left with the help of the media. So I'm gonna show you some things and see what you think of it. So first, let's take a look at this. You may remember this from about a week ago now. Erika Thomas is a state rep from Georgia, and she made accusations of racism because she was told to go back to her country. Now, we know that that's false. The follow-up of that story is the story is false, but I want you to listen to a real brief discussion on a news show with Candace Owens, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but let's take a look at how he sees this as racism.
For any, but can I ask a question? Can you insult a black person? Can you insult a black person without being a racist? That's just a question.
I think the minute that he went with lazy, he was.
Why are you saying black people are lazy?
No, but that's
why does the word lazy make you think
that is a
about?
Common racist
No, it is not. I've never been called lazy my entire life. So the question is, why does the word lazy make? No. I'm asking a question. I asked you a question. You said that lazy makes you think of black people. That's what you're saying.
That is a common racist trope.
So that's within you, not within him. That is not a common racist trope towards black people.
Okay, so let me put just a little context to the story as it's been fleshed out over the past week. Evidently, Ms. Thomas went into an express lane saying that required 10 items or less, and evidently she had much more than 10 items. So a gentleman approached her and said, you know, it's very rude for you to go into this express lane when there's other lanes that you should go into, and we've all probably experienced this in the supermarket. Then he started to leave, and then Miss Thomas approached him and started yelling at him, what business is it of yours? Stay out of my face. I'm here with my child. I'm pregnant. Why are you bothering me? And then he got angry and he called her a lazy son. I think a lazy son of a bitch, or maybe lazy bitch, one of those two. So as you heard in this discussion, this gentleman says the word lazy is a racist trope. Therefore, he is a racist for calling her a lazy bitch. And let me back up. He's actually not a racist for calling her a lazy bitch. He's a racist because his skin color is white and hers is not. If he was black and she was black, he could call her a lazy bitch. That's okay. If he was black and she was white, he could call her a lazy bitch. That's okay. But if he's white, and the guy actually insists he's not white. He's Cuban. He's Cuban American. He came from Cuba. So he says, I'm not white, but that's another issue. So the whole point is you've got to be a certain color of skin, talking to a different color of skin, and then the words you say can be openly interpreted as racist, as this gentleman has done. Okay, that was an example of pulling up a word from our past, lazy, or a meaning of that word from our past, 1960s, 1950s, 1930s, 1920s, 19th century, and bringing it up into the future, turning the word lazy into a racist word again. And again, it's skin color that does that. Let's take a look at this new attack. We can all see that Mr. Trump must be a racist. Look at the headline. Trump attacks another African-American lawmaker, not a lawmaker, but an African-American lawmaker, and calls Baltimore a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess. So let's talk about how they can add new words to become racist words.
This morning, the president attacked another member of Congress on Twitter. This time, it's House Oversight Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings. He wrote this: Cummings' district is a disgusting, rat and rodent-infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. No human being would want to live there. Infested. That's usually reserved for references to rodents and insects. But we've seen the president invoke infestation to criticize lawmakers before. You see a pattern here? Just 2 weeks ago, President Trump attacked 4 minority congresswomen. Why don't they go back to the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Reminder, 3 of them were born here. All of them are American. Infested, he says. A week before his inauguration, January 2017, Congressman John Lewis should spend more time on fixing and helping his district, which is in horrible shape and falling apart, not to mention crime-infested. Donald Trump has tweeted more than 43,000 times. He's insulted thousands of people, many different types of people. But when he tweets about infestation, it's about black and brown people. September 2014, at the height of an urgent health emergency, why are we sending thousands of ill-trained soldiers into Ebola-infested areas of Africa? Bring the plague to the U.S.? Obama is so stupid. Infested, he says. There's a revolution going on in California. So many sanctuary areas want out of this ridiculous crime-infested and breeding concept. Infested, he says. The president says about Congressman Cummings' district.
Now we have someone who's trying to create a new word for racist. Kind of like what happened a couple years back when we saw some riots going on in different cities. I think one of them actually was Baltimore, where police were told to stand down, and there was a lot of commentary about these thugs in the street, and some of these same people who are arguing about Trump's tweets to Cummings were saying thug is a racist word. They were trying to create that as a new trope. So now the word is infestation. But a few points on this. And this guy cites 43,000 emails that Donald Trump sends, and he pulls out 4. I did the math. I think that's less than 1/1000%. But he uses those 4 as strong evidence, facts, that Donald Trump must be racist. Although all of his tweets talk about crime-infested or rat-infested or Ebola-infested. He doesn't say those black-infested cities. That would be racist, but that's not what he says. But he's white, and he's talking about bad situations in which black people are involved, so it must be racist. Infestation is a racist word, right? Well, let's take a look at this video.
Marcus Alsop has lived here for 40 years. He repairs the city's homes, an eyewitness to the worst Baltimore has to offer.
The poor living are in the single houses, the real houses in Baltimore City, where they're generally rat infested, regardless of what you do as a person living there. Roaches, mice, an epidemic in bed bugs. The neighborhoods are falling apart, not because the people are bad people. We're underpaid, undereducated, and so many of us have been living like this for the second and third generation until we don't even know how to change. Despair is a way of living.
So here we have, this proves what I was trying to say earlier. It's not what you say, it's the skin color with which you are wrapped that defines what racism is. Here's a gentleman that's saying the exact same thing, and this video was from a BBC report that's 2 years old. It was 2017. So this video is 2 years old. A gentleman of color uses the exact same term, and I'll bet you no one will call him a racist. But the president says it, so it is a racist, or he is a racist. So what they do is they simply say skin color defines whether or not what you say is racism. They can create new words, or they can pull out old words like that first guy did with the word lazy. All of it is just based around skin color. And in both cases, notice they do not talk about the issue. I don't know a lot about Baltimore. I've done a little research, but in the last couple of days, because of all of this hoo-hub, there are some problems in parts of Baltimore, evidently, some very serious problems. And the point being, and what Donald Trump is saying, how can Elijah Cummings be this great congressman from this district that's basically got rat infestation going on in just a crappy city? And there's a point taken. Elijah Cummings has been a congressman since 1996. So if my math is correct, that's more than 20 years he's come out of Baltimore. And if you remember, this gentleman in the last video says this has been going on for a generation. So as long as Congressman Cummings has been there, there's been no improvement. So where are you, Mr. Cummings? Where are you would be a fair question. And what the media should be doing is holding Mr. Cummings' feet to the fire. Why aren't we seeing any kind of improvement in your tenure as the congressman from Baltimore, given the circumstances? And to be fair, I think his district cuts right through Baltimore. So I don't know exactly street addresses and that kind of thing, but that's still a worthy question to ask. What's going on with Baltimore? Mr. Cummings, what have you done for your district? Those are fair questions, and that's what we should be talking about. But we aren't talking about it. In fact, the whole Democratic Party, the Democratic leadership comes out straight in support, of course, for the racism against Mr. Trump. Here's a tweet from Nancy Pelosi. And if that's not enough, the last step in their master plan of taking over the language and avoiding talking about issues is what this person tweets out. This is what America is dealing with right now. When people say that the white supremacists are rising up and there's a lot of hatred that Trump is stirring, I think it's totally mistargeting. What is happening is the socialist left refuse to talk about issues, and they create all kinds of calculus for defining what racism is, new calculus for defining what racism is. They instantly go to a charge of racism, and they won't talk about issues. And as we see with two clips, the media simply supports it. The media allow these people a platform to go out there and make shit up. Remember those pictures, those first 3 pictures we saw? That is what racism is. That's when some white people thought they were superior to black people simply because of skin color. Now you are a racist simply because of your skin color. And in this case of that last tweet, or that last message from that MSNBC person, they don't even care about skin color. If you support Trump, you are a racist. We need to start calling all Trump supporters racist. This is horrific behavior in terms of free speech and national discourse and talking about issues and being a democracy. This is horrific behavior. And we should be hearing from all the media how people are refusing to talk about issues and they're making shit up. We don't. Racism is something serious. To identify these last 2 events as racist attack is to take away from the serious nature of racism. When we can't talk about issues anymore, when we can't speak freely, we're in trouble. The media supports this. That's why, and I understand Trump says some crazy things. But I agree, in part at least, with the notion that what we have as the media today is a threat, is a danger to the American people. We're not presenting truth anymore. We should be talking about issues. We aren't. We're not doing that because the socialists, with the help of the media, are creating ways to avoid talking about issues. And let me add just one opinion. I have no evidence of what I'm about to say. It's just how I feel. I used to be an American, and now I have to define myself as a white American, and I really don't like that. Fortunately, if you go online, there are many people, especially if you go to YouTube, you'll see many people who don't look like me, who are recognizing what has been going on for decades. But if there are some people who don't look like me, who don't have white skin, who get a sense that there's a rise in white racism, it could be because of what I've just demonstrated in this video. There is such a strong push and a quick push to identify anyone who's white as racist, and that's actually been going on for years. Many people who look like me tend to walk on eggshells around people who are black because they're afraid that if they say something that has nothing to do with being racist, it can be taken as racist, and all of a sudden the discussion that they may have been having will be shut down. And more than that, they'll be targeted. I think what Trump has brought to the American discourse is not just a denouncement of PC, political correctness, but an indictment of what it's done to our nation. We cannot speak freely. I think it's possible that there are many, many people who are white in America who feel like, yes, I can actually speak my mind, and I'm not an evil person for speaking my mind. We really need to look at this whole notion of what racism is and not see it as a black and white issue. It is an American cultural issue. It has helped to tear us apart. The chasm we feel in our country, I think part of it comes from a large group of people being told basically to shut up, don't speak your mind. We will absolutely destroy you if you speak your mind. We need to be able to share ideas. We need to be able to share our thoughts. And we need to be able to do that freely. This short video shows just two events. But there are many events where white people, I think some of them, I might be the only one. It might, of all the white people in America, I might be the only one who feels this. But it's like I can't speak freely. That's why when I go online and I connect up with people who aren't white, who are black, and I can speak my mind, it is so refreshing. I'm coming up with my own definition of terms, and I may make a video just on this. There are two kinds of people in America. There are Americans, and they come in every color, they come in all genders, they come in all sizes, they come in all kinds of different things. They're just Americans. And then there are the blank Americans, the African Americans, the Italian Americans, the female Americans, the this American. Those are the people who don't want to have a discussion. Those are the people who are working to tear our country apart. So when I see black people today, I guess what I'm going to start doing is trying to ask, are you an American or are you an African American? Because an African American will see things very differently than an American. I know I may be angering some people, but I'm just sharing I'm adding this to the video. I was not intending to do this, but it's just my personal belief that some of what we're hearing about this rise in white nationalism and white racism and white supremacy might be, for me at least it is, nothing more than a sigh of relief. Is it possible I could sit in a room with people of different colors and just say what I think? Is it possible we could get there? That's where I want to get. Thanks.